on Twitter and on YouTube.
My kids are on those websites. I'm really not.
I don't believe it. My computer spends as much time in the hospital as anything. The trouble is there's no 13-year-old living in the area that I can get to fix it.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Autosport Radio. Hello. Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2018 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGilvery Speedway, 30th and High School in the beautiful town of Speedway, Indiana. Tonight's show is presented by Honda and Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Verizon IndyCar Series, and SVRA. As I'm sure everyone is aware, including myself, that Thanksgiving is only 2 days away. Can you turn the sound up? So I want to make sure that you all, I know Howdy was out buying a turkey today so that he'll be all set to go. But you need to get yourself prepared, yeah. Yeah, I know he lied. I knew it. Also want to mention that the Alexander Rossi and the Honda team running the Baja 1000 finished second. And if those of you who may or may not have heard, he was running the race and he went up over a bump and the car flew, which it was supposed to, but coming the other way was a citizen going the other direction. Almost hit him. He hit the mirror on the side of the guy's car, but he got away and they finished second. He said he had a great time. It's the first time he's been down there to run in the sand and all the nonsense that they go through out there. The Grand King Shops have launched a YouTube channel, and that can be found by going to Grand King Racers at youtube.com. And they put up various videos of the 50-plus hours of interviews they've done talking about Grand King and those who worked for him, those who drove for him, those who loved him, and those who didn't think so highly of him. It's really interesting to see, and when you go and look it up, it's very interesting interviews. Subscribe to it. It doesn't cost you anything, but they get the count from YouTube, which makes everybody happy, particularly them. Also want to mention that your best and most exciting doctor's appointment is of course, your dentist, so I highly recommend that you go to the Indy Dental Group. Dr. Jack Miller, former IndyCar driver, and his wife Liz Lewis have a phenomenal practice. If you need dentist work, I highly recommend it. You can make an appointment by calling 317-846-6125. And December 7th, Friday, there's going to be a little get-together at the Grand King Shops, bench race with the pros at the Grand King Shops, and the Vintage Indy Registry. Mike will be there passing out some calendars in case you don't know what's going on next year. It's going to be presented by Bubba's Burgers, my favorite. I used to have them in my restaurant, my own. I made my own Bubba's. So if you want to get out there, it's free. Come on out. The tickets are $25 and it's 4 to 8. And there's food and beverages. And they're located at 8155 Crawfordsville Road. If you spend as much time getting your computer fixed as I do, then you need to know the guy that I know, Jack at Computer Overdrive. He's at Lyndhurst and Crawfordsville Road on the northeast corner. Give him a call, tell him your problem. He can help you. Number is 317-328-0766. And don't forget the newest exhibit at the Indiana Motor Speedway Museum is the Hoosier 100. All the short track cars from Indianapolis area, Indiana area. They're great displays. It's really a good show. You don't want to miss it. Now, my first guest. I wanted to do something as a memorial to Mary Hallman George. I knew Mary, but not well. I mean, probably knew her as no different than most other people. She was a very nice lady, always very nice to me, always said hello if I saw her, but she never went out of her way to draw attention. She was a lady that wanted to be in the background, never did anything to draw attention to herself, except when she stood up on Memorial Day at the start of the 500 and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, start your engine." Then she got a lot of attention. Strangely enough, I invited her about 15, 18 years ago to be on my program. And her two girls laughed. They said, "My mom doesn't do that." So she and I talked about it. By golly, she did it. She came in here and she did the program. She's really quite good. But I wanted to know more about her. A lot of us know of her and have seen her and said hello, but didn't know her. So I invited a gentleman who was kind enough to come, who's known her for quite a number of years. He was asked to represent the family at the passing of Tony Holman, and he's been on the board and for many years was the only outside the family member of the board. He's a retired attorney, worked for Ice Miller, and he's here to tell us some stories about Mary. Please welcome Mr. Jack Snyder.
Thank you, Don.
Put that up. How did you get invited, or how did you get involved with the Holman George family?
Well, at the time, I was a young lawyer at Ice Miller downtown, and had been a partner in the firm for just a few years. And when Tony Holman died, Mary Holman went to a very close friend of hers in Terre Haute, Howard Batman, who was a distinguished lawyer from Terre Haute, to get some advice from Howard on what they needed to be doing here in handling the Tony Holman estate. And she was a little bit concerned about very concerned about keeping the facts confidential, and Howard recommended an Indianapolis attorney by the name of Harry Ice, who he happened to have served in the Navy with. So I was sitting in my office one day, and Tony died on October 27th, 77, and this was probably the next week. He'd been contacted, and he had served on the board of directors at Merchants National Bank with Tony Holman, and there was a friendship and an acquaintance there. He walked into my office one afternoon, and I was wondering to myself, what have I done to deserve this visit? And he asked me if I would be interested in working with him on the Tony Holman estate. And I said, yes, of course I would be interested in doing that. And so that's how I got involved. And I was a very distinct second chair on the team at that point. But Harry died quite unexpectedly in 1980. And I assumed a first chair position. And little did I realize at the time what an impact that would have on my career as a lawyer, but turned out to be a meaningful, very meaningful relationship. Devoted a lot of time and energy for many years representing the Holman family and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Did you follow racing? I mean, were you familiar with the happenings of what the Indianapolis Motor Speedway was at that time and what it's grown to be
Only
now?
by reputation. I grew up in Gary, Indiana, and attended a few races at the Illiana Speedway. Don, you've probably been up
Oh,
there
yeah,
to
I've been
see
there.
that track. That was we have some Illiana race fans here.
He used to pick up the cans after the race and sell them.
So I was familiar with racing, but I was not really a dedicated IndyCar fan.
A little bit.
But I have become a dedicated IndyCar fan over the last almost 40 years of association with the track and the family. Absolutely.
When did you get to know? I'm sure you had heard of Mary, but when did you get to know her and get to interact
Well,
with her?
Shortly after joining Harry Ice on the team to handle legal work for the Tony Holman estate, we drove over to Terre Haute to meet with Mary Holman and Mary George, and I ended up having a great deal of contact for the next probably 10 years with Mary Holman, and some regular contact as well during that period of time with Mary George. As Mary Holman aged, Mary George became more prominent as the family spokesman, and the relationship with her deepened and became more interesting.
Yeah, but it did with you, but the general public really didn't know her that well. They didn't see her. She didn't look for publicity. She didn't look to be in the crowd. She didn't want to be noticed. She was happy to be on the sidelines, pretty much.
She was a very shy person.
Yeah.
And she was engaged in a number of philanthropic activities on behalf of various and lengthy list of charitable organizations, but didn't publicize that.
Right.
I'll tell you a little story that sort of underscores her shyness. One year, the Super Bowl was being played for the first time, I think, in the brand new Miami Dolphins Stadium. And ABC carried the telecast of the Super Bowl that year. And ABC invited a group of people from the Speedway. They were doing the telecast of the race, of course, to come down as their guest and go to the Super Bowl. So I was there with Mary and Tony and Bill Donaldson and a number of other people that you know from the Speedway, and was walking around the site of the Dolphin Stadium where they had various exhibits and various activities going on the Sunday afternoon of the Super Bowl. This was the famous game between the New York Giants and the Buffalo Bills. Well, we were walking along through this exhibit area, and we came on the ABC exhibit, and Diane Sawyer was there in the exhibit. Well, Mary was a big fan of Diane Sawyer's, and Diane was one of the number one talents there on the ABC network. So Mary turned to me and said, "Jack, you've got to introduce me to Diane Sawyer." Well, Diane Sawyer didn't know me from a bale of hay, and I had never met her, but I certainly knew who she was. So I said, "Okay, let's go over and say hello to Diane." And I told Diane I wanted to introduce her to the president or board chair at that time, I think, of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And she and Mary hit it off very well, became friends for years after that. But she wanted somebody else to handle this introduction. So I was the guy. I've had other similar experiences with her that she just, as prominent a person as she is to all of us, and certainly to all fans of the Indianapolis 500-mile race, she was a very shy person.
It was interesting for whatever reason. She had, and maybe had more, but I was aware of two, like, picnics she had out in the back of her house at the Speedway. And
Right.
I got invited twice. One of them, Dick Simon was involved in. I worked for Dick at the time, and I don't remember why she did it, but she did. And she stopped me and said, "I'm going to have this thing. Would you come and join us?" I said, "Sure." And then another one was held, and I don't know why that was, but again, I saw her, and she said, "I'm having a get-together at the house. Why don't you stop by?" Which I did again. She was an interesting lady. She had, she and Guy had invited us on several occasions to come up and watch her, because she loved horses and had a boatload of them at one time. Come up and watch them run at, I believe, Hoosier Park, and we never connected on the times that they ran. But she was big into animals and did a lot for animals and animal care and animal shelters, among other things that she did.
Well, she was big in greyhounds, recovery greyhounds. She never was interested in racing the greyhounds, but she was interested in taking care of those that were retired from racing. And she had a collection of greyhounds. At one time, she probably had 6 or 7, maybe more, at one time in her home. And she was a great lover of animals generally. Horses, greyhounds, dogs. She loved dogs of all kinds. And she was just a kind person.
And she loved racing and race drivers. She actually loved the sport, and that's what you'd think. Well, she was born into it more or less, but she truly loved the sport, enjoyed it, and understood it.
She did, and her obituary documented her earliest race team in the sport at a time when she was the only woman team owner. But she became friends with the prominent and the less prominent race drivers. She helped many along the way. She developed a very close relationship with Stéphane Grégoire.
Yes, she did. He drove for us at the time.
Did he? And he drove for Tom Chastain for several years, and Tom was a close friend of mine. We were together in an Indian guide program with our sons years before. But she was a kind, quiet, down-to-earth lady, and loved racing. I can remember sitting at races with her. I remember one race in particular down at in Fort Lauderdale, or in Miami rather, And Mary George knew racing. If you sat with her and watched a race, she could tell what was going on. She could have been a steward, really. I was amazed. I was able to stay in the booth with Brian Barnhart for a number of races, and I was just astounded at what he could see on the racetrack. Well, Mary George was very, very good at this. She was an experienced race fan, and she could tell what was going on, in great detail.
And she was famous for her welcoming in May. She'd have a big party in the patio behind the tower every year, and invited all the drivers and crews and all that kind of thing. When we moved here and we used to go there, I said, there's no reason for anybody that I can think of to try and buy shrimp in this area, because she's got the biggest there are, and she's got them all. Yeah. But it was really quite, and everybody was there. Yeah. And but she never looked around and wanted to shake hands. Thank you. I chased her down one day and thank you. So nothing.
I can remember one experience, Don, where I was home one evening and the Red Cross was dealing with a flood, a serious flood. And I think it was the Mississippi River. I'm not exactly sure which river it was, but I think it was the Mississippi. And they were doing their usual fundraising routine on television. Mary called me on the phone. This is pre-cell phone days. This is back on a landline. And said, "Hey, turn your TV on and look at this Red Cross drive." And she wanted to support this Red Cross drive. And I said, "Okay." And we talked about the amount of gift that she was going to make, and she wanted me to call that in, which I did, and identified her as the donor. And it was a very generous level of financial support. I got a call back after the tragedy had been dealt with and the flood waters were back in their normal channels. And they wanted somebody from the National Red Cross office to come out and thank her for her gift. Thank you. She said she didn't want to do that. She said she's made her gift and she hoped it helped, and that was her payback. Didn't want any publicity over it.
She had what little I knew of her. I mean, I didn't hang around by the hour and talk to her, but she seemed to have a sense of humor, which I don't think a lot of people know. You would have known because you spent a lot of time with her. She was just an interesting lady. And what tickled her fancy?
Well, she loved meeting famous people. Yeah. Some of you may remember that it wasn't too many years ago when Lance Armstrong, then in good standing in international bicycle racing, was part of a Bristol-Myers tour that went from the west boundaries of Indiana over to the east boundaries, or in the country, I guess. He went almost cross-country, and he was going to stop in Indianapolis. This was after he'd had his surgery that put him back in good health at Indiana University. And Mary had become a big Lance Armstrong fan. So she said, "Jack, you've got to introduce me to Lance Armstrong when he comes in town." And I thought, well, Mary, give me a day or two to work on this, and I'll find out more about it. And I called over to the IU School of Medicine, where both Marys had jointly made gifts to IU Med School, endowing chairs in their names there at the med school, and talked to a woman that was very prominent in their development office. And I said, Mary knows that Lance is coming to town, and is there some way we could arrange for her to meet Lance Armstrong? And she said, "Oh yes, we will make arrangements to do this." And she picked Mary and I up the morning that Lance was appearing, and he was doing some speaking down at the Bankers Life building when it was brand new, so whatever year that would have been. And they had a press conference. And Lance was the main speaker. He was introduced by one of the Bristol-Myers top executives. Well, Mary had brought with her, this again sort of shows her down-to-earth nature. She had bought some envelopes that had U.S. Postal Service on them, and at that time, the U.S. Postal Service cycling team was the team that Lance was riding for. She brought a book that had been written about Lance that she wanted him to autograph, and she had some other things that she brought with her. So when Lance finished his press conference, I pulled my Diane Sawyer routine out of my pocket and went up to Lance like we were old friends and said, "I want to introduce you to the chairman of the board of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, who's a big fan of yours." And he was very nice and very warm. They hit it off well. There must have been several dozen pictures taken of the two of them. And she actually had planned one year to go over with the doctor that did the surgery for Lance here in Indianapolis to the wind-up of the Tour de France, which is there in Paris, but that didn't happen. It got canceled for some reason. But she's a fan. She's a race fan, and she's a sports fan generally.
And it seemed to me now the thing that intrigued me back in the 70s sometime, the United States Auto Club came up with an insurance policy. I can't remember if it was cars insurance or something. And Tony and Bobby and Al Unser were touring around making appearances, and they came to O'Hare Airport. And I was one of the few guys. I went up there, and I listened to their story. In the meantime, Mr. Hellman comes over, and we start talking. You know, what are you doing here? What do you do? Blah, 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 blah. 'Cause he didn't know me from a bag of doorknobs either. From that time, and we talked for 20, 30 minutes. He got on a plane, and they went, wherever they went. Any time from then on, if I saw him or he saw me and I didn't see him, he'd come up and say hello. Always.
Yeah.
He remembered my name, always shook hands, how are you? And we'd chat for a few minutes and he'd be off somewhere. And it always impressed me that a guy like that would talk to some yoo-hoo that's just following, but it was his sport and his place, and you were here, and welcome.
Well, and the younger families have picked up this, combined shyness and friendliness. They're very down-to-earth people, and unassuming, and they're all generous supporters of numerous charities.
Yeah. And Tony now has stepped up, and he is chairman of the board. I've had him here a number of times. In fact, one time he was here, we were talking to him and said, "By the way, have you talked to Bernie Ecclestone recently?" He said, "We haven't. I need to do that." Now, whether he said that, I don't know, but sure enough, he did, and pretty soon here comes Formula One.
Yeah.
But I always enjoyed him. He's very quiet. He's like his mother. He's very quiet. He doesn't look for attention. He's going to get it when people find out who he is. But and I ran into Josie down. I think I was with my son. I think we were going to the race in Kentucky, I believe. And we're in a restaurant having lunch, and this lady my son says, "She's looking at you and pointing." I don't know. Probably because
Josie.
What's this? Yeah, it was Josie. So she came over. I introduced her to my son. When she left and went back, he said, "You did know her? I thought you were kidding me." Wow. So. But she too, and Nancy was friendly. She wouldn't go out of her way, but she talked, and I'd see them at the racetrack and chat with them. I don't see them that much anymore. I don't know if they go to the race anymore or not.
Oh, they do. They all do. And Kathy does too, the youngest daughter. Oh, yeah.
I don't know her.
Kathy and Steve fly out from California. They haven't missed the 500.
Well, I see them there, but I used to see them around the circuit, and Nancy always had a motorhome she drove around it at one.
And Nancy has gone to more races than the other three,
Yeah.
but
they're all, again, if you know them, you know who they are, but nobody else does. They're just quiet people. They don't make a big to-do about, well, we own the speedway. You don't hear them say boo.
No.
What were some of the funnier times that you spent with Mary? Things that you might have done, you went, good grief.
Well, you've heard my Diane Sawyer story and my Lance Armstrong story. My time with her was usually during business hours, usually a race or a meeting of some kind. Sat through many board of directors meetings with her at the Speedway, and humor was usually a part of the scene, but wasn't the dominant part. So I know she enjoyed life. She definitely had a good sense of humor, as her children do. But when I think of Mary, I think of her interest in racing, her interest in animals, the numerous way in which she's helped charitable organizations, and while she was a person with a bona fide sense of humor, that isn't the characteristic of her that I think of first.
Right.
So I can't give you too many examples of her humor.
Did she get her philanthropic endeavors from her mom and dad?
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Yes, she did. And I, as I say, I didn't know Tony, but I did know Mary Hellman, and I got to know her quite well, working with her during the 20 years she lived after Tony died. And the two of them actually worked together on identifying charities, and Mary Hellman started a charitable trust, a charitable lead trust, which is a form of generous charitable giving through a trust instrument. And the two of them would decide each year which trusts they were going to benefit, and the Red Cross and the Humane Society, numerous organizations, much of which has been publicized. Mrs. Hellman was a major supporter of the Indianapolis Museum of Art. Their interest ranged. Mary's was in the sports world. Mary Hellman's was less so.
You know, it's amazing when you find out or hear what is part of the Hellman and Company. Clabber Girl, of course, the #1 baking powder in the world, I think.
It is now.
It is now, yeah. They've really done a job with that, but they've been involved in the IMS Productions. They own television stations. They own a bank. They're involved in own stock in banks. But they're in a lot of things. The
Yes.
company, Hellman and Company, is a lot bigger than people really realize, I think.
Well, it is, and if you're ever in Terre Haute, I'd encourage you all to stop and visit Hellman and Company, because they have preserved. They have a beautiful offices in an old building there, and they've preserved it in a great way. They've got numerous old photographs of the company, posted nicely, throughout the first floor of the Hellman and Company building there. They've also have a nice restaurant in the building, which is relatively new. It's a coffee shop restaurant combination, and they have a brand of coffee which they sell. Yeah, oh yeah, they do, which is quite good.
Is it available any place other than this?
Yeah, it's available generally around. You don't. I don't know exactly, in Indianapolis, which stores are.
What's the name of it?
One. I was afraid you were going to ask me that. I don't. I remember the name of it offhand. I've got a bag of it. Rex. It's Rex. Yeah.
Oh,
thank
that's
you.
right.
Thank you. It is Rex.
He's a Starbucks guy, the high dollar guy.
I'm a coffee guy.
Rex will hold its own with
It's
Starbucks.
phenomenal.
I got something here. It says, from the time Tony Hellman bought the Speedway, the story went that the family never took a dime from the Speedway's income, but put everything back into the Indianapolis to improve the property. Is that true?
That was before my time, Don. I can't really tell you whether that's true or not, but if you've seen any of the old pictures of the Speedway and the condition it was in the 40s when Tony acquired it, you know that there has been a lot of money invested in that physical plant. And if you travel around the country, this was a very big revelation to me. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway physical plant is in a category of its own in motorsports racing in this country, and perhaps in the world. There are a lot of nice tracks around, but nothing's quite on the same power as the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But Tony George continued that tradition, by the way. He's made the decisions that result in the improvement we see over there now.
Yes, he spent a lot and did a lot.
He did.
With the garages and the new tower, the new pagoda, and all the things he's done
Right.
to make it better. And although there was a little squawking at the beginning, it turned out he was right.
Right.
And
Right.
how different do you think he'll be as the chairman of the board than his mother was? Certainly not any noisier, that's for sure.
No, he won't be. He's a quiet person. I think he'll be very similar to Mary, he's a quiet, thoughtful guy. He'll encourage active discussion among the other board members and debate when appropriate, and he'll make his decision when he's got the facts in front of him and has heard the arguments on both sides of the issues. And he'll be a very good board chair.
And when Mark Miles first came in as president and CEO of Hallman and Company, and he's on the board as well now, I had him as a guest here. I waited until he found out where the executive washroom was and everything. Then he agreed to come on, and I said, "Has it crossed your mind? Are you looking at doing anything else with the facility other than the Brickyard, the 500, and I think Formula One was here?" And he said, "No, this is a racing facility. We have no plans." And about 6 months later, that all changed, which to me is smart. They got this huge piece of property that you could put 15 or 20 NFL stadiums in and still have room left over to run a race. Why not use it? Because it's got to be expensive just to sit there. They pay taxes and everything else. It's got to be expensive. And by golly, they are. I think it's great. Why not?
Well, and concerts have become a significant part of the scene, and I think it's helpful as we try to interest younger individuals into to become race fans through music, and the concerts have been successful. My wife and I were at the dirt races there this year in May, and that was just a fantastic experience. But that's racing. That's just another additional form of racing. And the airplane racing is also interesting. It's not a big crowd event, but it's entertaining. Whether there'll be additional significant changes, only time will tell.
Well, I got to say that when I first started coming around, the Snake Pit was the place to watch in turn one.
Yeah.
And then I think it was Tony said, "That's enough of this nonsense," and they put a stop to it. And then Mary's granddaughter, I forget her name, said, "Let's rejuvenate it under a different thing," and they put it in between turn 3 and 4.
Yeah, Jesse, yeah.
Yeah, Jesse. And the first year, I think they drew like 6,000, if I remember right. Now they sell up to 35 and 38, and Dave knows, 38,000 tickets. People go there, and I've asked Doug a number of times, have you gotten any that have said, "Well, let's go to that, but there's a race. It's the biggest race in the world." And he said, as a matter of fact, yes. It has transformed into having people come to the Snake Pit, but also then watch the race.
Well, something happened the year of the 100th race that I think is worth mentioning here. That was had very strong support of the family, and I give Mark Miles and Allison Melanchthon credit for this. They sent themselves and other representatives of the Speedway around the state of Indiana talking about the history of the Indianapolis 500-mile race and its importance to the state of Indiana. And the attendance at the Speedway has gone up significantly since that around the state promotion. Doug Bowles does a great job of, I'm sure you've probably had Doug on your show.
Oh, yeah.
He does a great job of promoting racing, but I thought these trips to all of the major cities and some of the cities that aren't so major in Indiana, promoting the 100th running, and it reminds me, this is a bit of humor that isn't directly on point, but let me tell you the story anyway. I think you'll find it interesting. Gene Cease was for years president of what is now the University of Indianapolis. And Gene was making a presentation to the downtown business group one year after he had just come back during that year from a trip to China. He was at a university in China, and they had, I don't know the name of the university, by the way, but it was a major Chinese university. They were in an auditorium. They had several hundred faculty members, maybe some students, but I think it was an older audience. And they had a translator that were translating his remarks into Chinese. And as he was being introduced, they said he's the president of the University of Indianapolis. The Chinese audience, and it looked like it was all Chinese audience, without changing expression, started the sound. They knew racing, and they knew probably one race, and it was the Indy 500. So that's a great story. Gene told that to the group in Indianapolis. It was funny.
I left the Illinois-Chicago area where I lived and went down to Florida. And I was an electrician. I was an electrician in Chicago. Went down there. I got a job as the head of sales for an electrical contractor. And the owner would send me out. I've never gotten in this guy's door. See if you can sell him. So I'd go in, and believe it or not, we start talking about racing. You know AJ Foyt? Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. I did this, and I've been around there for however many years. And I'd come back with a signed contract. How the hell did you do that? And believe it or not, one day I said, "Boom, boom, the 500." You're kidding. I said, nope. They know it, and we sit and talk about it, but before you know it, I have a contract.
By the way, I should add something about Mary George's funeral last week. Roger and Kathy Penske were there. Mario Andretti was there. Eddie Sachs Jr. was there, and the church was full of people from the racing community.
Sure.
And it was really quite a tribute to her.
And justifiably so, because, as I said, a lot of people don't realize that, but she was very close to a lot of drivers. AJ Foyt, at one time, he and Lucy stayed there with them at one
right.
time. Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, she liked people, liked the racing people, and got along with them, and I thought it was great. I was impressed. She came here and did this program when her kids said that she's never done it.
Yeah.
She won't do it, but she did. And she was quite good. People, how the hell did you get her here?
Yeah.
The old-fashioned way, I asked her. I had to talk for a while, but she did do it. So,
Good for you. Good for you.
what was it like being the only non-family member of the board for so many years?
Well, it was interesting. It was interesting. The children, Mary's children, were of course quite young when I went on the board in '78 or so, whenever that was, sometime after Tony Holman's death. But there were family issues that came up, as happens in any family, and the family relationships influenced the business decisions to some extent. But they were good. They have great pride in the Indy 500 and in Holman and Company and Clabber Girl and what the family has built up over the years.
One last question, because believe it or not, people have asked me, and I said, how in the world would I know? Do you think there's any chance that they'll sell the racetrack? I've said no.
The family is so closely identified with the track. It's the core of their identity in so many different ways. I don't think that's on their list of things to consider.
I wouldn't think so. Yeah. You know, the things that they've done and built it into, without any question, it's a largest crowd for a single day event in the world.
In the world.
And it's the most renowned. You know, they say, well, F1 is a world champion. Oh, yeah? You run road courses, street courses, big deal. When you come to IndyCar, as some of the drivers are now starting to realize, you come here, you do run street and road courses, but you also run a 3/4 mile track in Iowa, and you know, if you win to me, if you win the IndyCar Series championship, you are a world champion, in my opinion, because you've got to be.
I share that opinion.
Everything. Well, I thank you for your time and taking.
Well, Donna, thank you. It was a pleasure to be here and be surrounded by so many Indy 500 fans.
And after 40 years in the legal business, you retired. Now what do you do?
Well, I still serve on the board at the Speedway, and I
Yeah.
serve on a couple of other boards in town. I'm very active at Marian University, which is another great story, incidentally. And I stay busy doing those working with nonprofit organizations, basically.
So in other words, you're not playing golf, you're not raking leaves.
Oh, I'm doing some raking. On top of it.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate you coming.
Thank you, Don. My pleasure.
Jack Snyder. Thanks. Appreciate it. I have a young guest who is on his way. Oh, he's not on his way up yet. I got to wake him. Slap him. Wake him up. It's your turn. And before you get here, I'm going to read a couple of plugs. Oh, look at this. He's doing his own. Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Dale, Indiana. You've got to come to the country to find out the best prices are in fact in the country, and that's Daleville, Indiana. You just take I-69 north to exit 234, go east 1 mile, and you won't miss them. It's on the right-hand side, and you will find out when you deal there that why Sam is rated at the top of customer satisfaction. When you buy a car from him, you will find that he doesn't stand behind you, he stands alongside you. That's Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville. The Indy Racing Experience. If you want to get a ride and find out what these drivers do and enjoy and like, you got to take a ride in a two-seater. So go to IndyRacingExperience.com and pick a date for your ride next year, because they've shut down this year. And you can sign up online, and in the promo box put SJ1 and you will get a 50% discount. Or you can call 317-243-7171, talk to Shonda, and mention SK1, and she will get you the 50% discount as well. You need anything embroidered? Stitches 2 on Gasoline Alley can do just what you need. Anything, shoes, hats, jackets, shirts, whatever it is, they can do it. Give Fran a call. Her number is 317-271-3444. If it's time to check to get insurance for your home, your car, or commercial property, do what I've done and a lot of people have done. Call Mike Pardee at VP Insurance, located at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. He handles AAA, among others, and you will find you get better coverage for less money. I'm telling you that because I've done it. Give him a call, make an appointment, talk to him. His number is 317-248-0070. That's VP Insurance in Speedway, 317-248-0070. And if you haven't joined the Indy Racing Experience, IndyCar Nation, you've got to do so. It's a great organization. You get a lot of perks at all the racetracks, and you'll have a great time, and you get a lot of goodies that being a member gives you. To join, just go in their promo box at IndyCarNation.com, and in the promo code put DONKAY, DONKAY 15 for a 50% discount off of Champion and Legend memberships. It's a great organization. You'll have a lot of fun when you go to the racetrack. A lot of things that they put on for you. Stephanie and Bill Throckmorton own the Grant King Race Shop, and they have a Grant King limo. It'll take you on a tour of race shops. You go to not only the Grant King shop and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum, but a couple other shops in the area. You can pick up 6 to 8 people wherever you are, and it'll take you back from where you came from. Give them a call. The office number is 317-820-3959. Or better yet, you want to have a good conversation, call Bill. He loves it. His number is 317-371-0290. Now, my next guest is a young gentleman that I have been chasing for quite a while. Of course, the problem is I can't run very fast, so I didn't catch him quite quickly. But he has a very interesting story. He has a business that is thriving, and that's expanding into other things. If you sit at a racetrack and you hear sound, you say, gee, the PA said, I wonder who does that. Him. His company. And he's looking for people. We'll get to that. But he also suffered from cancer at one time, and he beat it. He's here tonight to talk about a number of things, because I'm going to ask him a number of questions about things that I don't know the answers to, but I'm going to find out. He's an interesting guy. When it first came around that I was aware of, it was IKDD. I know Dave Dusick. I wore the shirt and I had to wash it all the time because it had tomato juice on it and stuff. People threw things at me. Now he's changed it. It's called RKDD. Racers know Dave Dusick. Well, I've asked racers, he said, who? Do you hear the noise at the track? Yeah, then you know Dave. He's the one that does it. Please welcome a great guy, interesting man, Mr. Dave Dusick.
Please don't throw tomatoes. You won't have to worry about me not being loud enough. Most people hit mute when I start talking.
How are you?
I'm good, man. Can I just tell you that
No.
every time I'm on this show, I feel humbled to be here. We talk about this every time, but I used to sit right over there as a kid every week probably being loud and getting yelled at. But to follow a guy like Jack Snyder, it's just truly humbling. Thank you. It's truly amazing to be part of this sport and to be part of this industry and part of this family, and it never ceases to amaze me or humble me to realize that I get to be part of something so cool.
So do I. And you know the neat thing about what I do? Jack Snyder's not some guy that flips burgers at a Burger King.
Yeah.
He has to come here. He can't sit home with a cocktail with his feet on the ottoman doing an interview over the telephone.
Wait. I could technically make that happen, and I could have stayed in
Shut
Panama.
up. Shut up. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to give anybody any ideas. David, you have, we'll get to the foundation thing in a minute, but you have a business that's quite interesting. And tell me what it is and how you got into it.
That's a loaded, long question that we've yet to really understand how to explain. But basically, Racetrack Engineering is our business, and we do event operations for motorsport events. So we are a technical company. So we provide technical systems, but more importantly, we provide knowledgeable people who are passionate about making the sport better, right? So everything we do, every time we show up at a race or an event, our purpose is to make sure that the event's better because we've been there than it was when we got there. And ultimately it started because of a relationship with the Holman George family that led to an internship in the construction department at Indianapolis Motor Speedway with the great Kevin Forbes. And then through time I left there and started Racetrack Engineering, and the whole vision was I learned so much about how to do things right at Indianapolis that I wanted to take the things we learned at Indy and share those with the rest of the sport. Because everybody says, well, we don't have the money of Indianapolis. Well, the truth is it's not about money, it's about knowledge, it's about passion, it's about education. And so we dedicate our lives to helping take the things we learn. We're fortunate to have contracts with IndyCar, with IMSA, with Pro A World Challenge. We do a lot of USAC stuff. We do a lot of different things. And we take, every time we do something new, we take that knowledge, we put it into this bank, and then when we go to a racetrack, it's valuable, you know? And so the whole purpose is to try to build the sport up by making things better, and that's both on the safety side and the entertainment side.
Now, you were telling me that you are now expanding into the SCCA and bringing them things that they'd never heard of, never seen, and never thought about. But you did.
That's actually the representatives from the SCCA Pro are here tonight, so very well done.
Wow.
Thanks for joining us. I would like to think, I hope, that they would agree that what we do is we identify a problem and then create a technical solution to solve that problem. And for example, SCCA doesn't have television. So imagine this, you're a race director, you've got 40 cars on the racetrack, and the only thing you can see is the cars going by the front stretch in front of you, and you get calls from corner workers, but the call says car 7 off turn 4. Well, what does that mean? Did he barrel roll? Did he hit the fence? You know, you have no idea. And so it's really hard in today's age to run an efficient race without information. So what we built for them is we go in and we set up cameras all around the racetrack, 16 cameras around the racetrack, and then we go in and build a whole video wall and a replay system. And so now the race director can call that race with information. And so it's not just safety, but it's competition, it's entertainment value. The more information that you have when you're trying to run an event, the better your event's going to be, right? So if we could teach you, your show could get better. Yeah, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I love your show, Don. That's why I'm here.
Now you tell me. I've been doing this program since 72 or something like that. And now you tell me, after all this time.
Well, I wasn't born until many, many, many years after 1972.
I don't know what Howdy's clapping about. He was born before I was.
You look older than I do.
A true story. You definitely look older than Howdy does.
Now Now I know. Now I know you're full of. Well, never mind. Your organization, and I've looked into it a little bit, is without question the best in the world. Now, you were scheduled to be here next week. And I get a panic call from your girl, and she says, "Can we make a change?" I said, "Oh, now what?" I have to send him to North Carolina. What do you mean you have to send him? He's supposed to be the guy that does this. I said, no, I got to send him. Can he do it Tuesday? I said, sure. Is he going to be here? Yes. Okay. Will he have the time? Yes, I'll make the time. So here you are. Why are you going to North Carolina? You didn't mention anything, and you say who you work with that had anything to do with North Carolina that I picked up on.
That's true, and technically I can't discuss that yet because I haven't signed a piece of paper.
Oh, that's what you're going for.
Exactly.
Negotiate.
That's exactly right. No, but to be honest, we're in a position now to where after doing this and being in construction and motorsports for 20 years and then 23 Indy 500s, I think. Now we've been in an independent business for 12 or 13 years. We're finally building the relationships, and people are starting to realize what we have to offer. And with any luck, you'll see the RTE logo at some more major, loud, fendered style races in the future.
Really?
Yeah, we'll see.
Let me see.
Yeah.
How many people work for you now? And if you're expanding to what you're telling me, you put up 16 cameras at a road course, it takes more than one person in more than one day.
Yeah, you're exactly.
So do you have a staff, or are you in a point where you can start to grow?
So that's been the biggest struggle for me, to be perfectly honest. Is I never wanted to be this big business owner. I just wanted to go to racetracks and do what I do well. But then I realized I couldn't do it all, right? And I've worked, 250 days a year for the last 10 years, But to your point, last year we had 8 people on our weekly staff meetings and another 20 or so, 25 subcontractors. And we did a little over 500 days at a racetrack last year. So,
Holy crap.
Yeah, I know there's only 365, but that's not man days, but we'll have up to 5 teams at 5 racetracks across the country on one weekend. And to be honest, we've been super stressed. Our guys have busted their butts. Racetrack Zach, who's supposed to be here. Zach, when you see this on the internet, you're in deep trouble. Racetrack Zach did 30 weeks in a row at a racetrack 2 years in a row. I mean, the poor kid just gives his life. Well, luckily, he loves it, but still, it's a lot of work. So this new campaign, we're looking to broaden our scope and hopefully regionalize some of our subcontractors. So instead of one guy having to go from California to New Jersey to Oklahoma to Florida to Michigan to Toronto, now we can regionalize a little bit. So we've got a new campaign right now called RTE Wants You. This is, I guess, the official release because it hasn't come out yet. It'll come out tomorrow. And look for it on social media. But RTE Wants You, there'll be a website. It's bit.ly/RTE Wants You, bit.ly/RTE Wants You. And it's a pretty cool poster of me, like the old Uncle Sam poster, with a goofy hat. I know, PR people. But anyway, the point is we're looking for good help. And one of the things that's really important in my business is guys like Tony George gave me a chance when I was a kid. And now, 25 years later, I get to live this dream life. And one of the things that's really important to me is to give people the same opportunities that I was given. And so this RTE Wants You campaign isn't about finding people who are already professionals. It's about finding people like our kid, Racetrack Zach, who's passionate and dedicated and wants to work hard, and giving him a chance to have the opportunity to enjoy what we get to enjoy. And so I'm really excited about this program. I hope it leads to making some more dreams come true, and more importantly, taking a little bit of weight off my shoulders.
Now, back up slowly.
Okay.
Where can they find this RTE Wants You? Slowly.
Do you know Bitly?
Bentley.
Bitly.
Bentley Warren?
Oh, no, but that guy's awesome.
Yeah, he is.
No, Bitly is a short link. bit.ly/RTE, as in Racetrack Engineering, Wants You. WANTS, like I want you. Like the old Uncle Sam poster. Remember that?
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
old
yeah.
enough to know that,
Oh,
right?
you sure?
I'm not, but my dad showed it to me.
I shook hands with Uncle Sam. Are you kidding? While he was posing. Now, I'm going to get to another part. You mentioned as a young lad you got the opportunity to do what you're doing now. Somebody gave you. But you were lucky to be the young lad to be able to do that. Go on your story a little bit. You had a serious illness that you shouldn't have survived, but you did. And you did it right here in Indianapolis at Riley Hospital for Children.
Can I just give them a link? I don't know if I want to cry. There's at least 7 people watching on my Facebook Live over there, and you've got thousands watching. So
There's 7?
I don't know. I can't see it from here. I don't want to put my glasses on.
Probably 3.
Yeah, you've got thousands. I've got 3. We'll make it as quick as we can make it. I was diagnosed at 13 months. This is 1978. I was diagnosed at 13 months. I know. You started your show in 72. You still look good, bud. And that's not what Howdy said, but yeah. I was diagnosed at 13 months with an incurable cancer called rhabdomyosarcoma. Don't ask me what that means. My mom can tell you everything about it. I wouldn't know. And it was really simple. Nobody had ever beat it. And there was a 50% chance of living 6 months, which I don't understand that math. Like, what's the other 50%? Apparently we learned what the other 50% was. But the older I get, the more I appreciate not just the miracle that we all believe, but the people who supported that miracle. My mom was in nursing school at IU School of Health during the time. Can you imagine being 24 years old, your baby is dying, and you're in nursing school? Like, she's the most amazing woman on planet Earth. But her lack of quit is the reason I'm here today. She questioned everything the doctors have ever said to her, and she had the book to prove it. What, honey? Oh my. Oh, I should love my mom. But my mom is an amazing person, and then the folks at Riley Hospital, for however many, 40, 50 years, they've been changing lives, and I'm proof of it. They threw the kitchen sink at me. It hit me, but I lived. So I'm grateful. I'm just grateful.
Growing up, did kids laugh at you or point and look at him and all that kind of stuff? I mean, I had the problem. Look how handsome I am.
I think
I'm lying.
I think more people laugh at me now than they did then. That's for sure. No, so the thing that's interesting is what you see today grew over time, right? So this is where the cancer was. They basically, my head was like this big, and so they hit me with radiation and chemotherapy, and they hit my pituitary gland, and basically they killed the cancer and everything near it, right? So as I grew, it just continually got worse, right? So I don't know, but I'll be honest with you, Don. I have 0 memories of being bullied as a child. 0. As an adult, children sometimes can be difficult because they don't know better, or nowadays there are some people out there who are really inconsiderate. I posted a Facebook video several months ago about a young lady at the Wendy's store that was inconsiderate, but luckily I've been surrounded by so much love my whole life that it made it okay to be me, that I don't allow that stuff to get to me, So if it happens, I just don't know it.
And what has impressed me over the years since I've known you, I mean, we're not close pals. You went to Panama. Did you invite me? No, of course not. Spent 2
You
weeks
don't
in
look
Panama.
very good in a bikini.
You're not kidding. I don't look real good. I don't look real good with a suit on. News for you. But
Be the best you, Don. Be the best you.
That's all I can do is, when I should have packed this in, I'm still here. I love it.
Me too.
And I get to talk to people like you and Mr. Snyder. I mean, what can I do better? Anyway, the care that you got at Riley, you haven't forgotten, and you then started the Dave Dusick Foundation. Tell me how that started, and where is it today from where it started, which was at 0, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I'll again try to make this a quick story.
Doesn't have to be. We don't have a time limit.
Okay, well, I talk a lot.
So do I. That's what I get paid. Well, I don't get paid, but
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I'm with you. So the foundation should be called the Friends of Dave Dusick Foundation. I make this joke, but it really is true. I just get to be the pretty face, right? Like, the people in my life are what make the impact of the Dave Dusick Foundation. And this whole thing started because a buddy of mine, Joey Whistler, if anybody knows Joe Whistler, I'm sure, Billy, you know Joe Whistler. He was an old race car driver out of Putnamville, and now he basically runs henchman uniforms with Nancy. But Whistler showed up at the bar one night with a shirt that says "I know Dave Dusick," and let's be honest, I usually have some friends around me, and he thought that if he told people he knew me, that he could make friends around him. And so, long story short, with social media, there were pictures, and all of a sudden, all these people came out of the woodwork saying, "I got to get me an I Know Dave Dusick t-shirt," and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. These people want a shirt with my name on it? I'm like, all right, well, so we decided to do this, but we decided if we're going to do it, we're going to do it for something productive, right? And so we decided that the money we raised from these t-shirt sales, $50, $60, $100, whatever, we would donate to Riley. And that started it was just, the time hop just showed me, it was in the fall of 2009. And since that t-shirt drive started in the fall of 2009. Andy Granatelli became a huge supporter, and Andy pushed me really hard because Andy didn't do anything small, and when Andy fell in love with the concept and the idea, Andy pushed me so hard, and Andy's the reason we have the Dave Dusick Foundation, why we legitimized as a foundation, besides a bunch of idiots selling t-shirts. But I don't know the real numbers, but it's in excess of $100,000 that's been raised for Raleigh Hospital in the last 10 years, and most importantly, I think it's been an opportunity. I never told my story publicly, and I think this has been an opportunity for us to spread positivity and to show the world that, whoever you are, just go be you, and I'm humbled to get to have my name on it. I really, really am.
And it's a great evening. This year it's December the 6th, and it's going to take place in the Media Center in the Speedway on the 4th floor.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a 30-foot ladder, I recommend you bring it. You can climb up to the 4th floor.
Hold on, we're going to stay positive here, Don. We're spreading positivity.
Well, it is. That's positive. You want to get up there, climb.
The positivity is you love to be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Even if you have to wait on the elevator a few minutes, it's going to be a great night. I'm really, really, really stoked to be at the Speedway. This is the 4th year we've done the Racers Know Dave Dusick party. It's basically a party. 50,000 of my closest friends come to town for the Performance Racing Industry Trade Show,
right.
And I just cannot do dinner enough. Sometimes I'll be at Harry and Izzy's for like 6 hours and have 3 dinners and 7 or 8 cocktails.
Where is it? Where am I going to find it?
Yeah, exactly. Everybody knows. Just go to Harry and Izzy's. Dusick will be there.
I didn't know that, but I do now.
Yeah, it's known. It's given. But whoever shows up has to buy.
I'll be home. Never mind.
But anyway, so Racers Know Dave Dusick is it's a racing themed party. You don't have to be a racer to go. It's on Thursday night at PRI show. This year it will be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which is awesome to mix my two passions together. The Mac Daddies, David Hunt, for those of you who know David, he's big in he's a spotter in the IndyCar series and then Road to Indy. David Hunt and his band, the Mac Daddies, will play, and they are just one of the best bands you've ever heard. My good buddy and great man, Jay Fry from the IndyCar series, is the keynote speaker this year, so I'm excited to hear what Jay has to say. Last year, Doug showed up, and Doug was amazing. He spoke, and then we actually gave away a ticket package to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Our friends at Charlotte helped us with that because I might be going there next week. I suck at secrets. I really, yeah. Anyway, so Doug's like, wait. Charlotte Motor Speedway can't give something away, and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is not giving anything away. So he's like, Dusick, get me back up on stage. So Doug gets back up on stage, and he just starts giving stuff away, just trying to jack the price up on this thing. And Doug was awesome last year. I'm grateful. But that's why I really want to call it the Friends of DD Foundation, because again, the community is the support, right? And actually, I wore this hat up for a reason. I have to throw a shout out to Team Cooper Tire. They're a huge partner of the Mazda. It's now just the Road to Indy, but they're also a huge supporter of Dave Dusick and the Dave Dusick Foundation. They're the presenting sponsor for the 3rd year in a row, and they've been great partners to us. And then also, I'd be remiss, she was going to be here today, Laura Cooper from Cooper Consulting Events, who's also a stalwart in the IndyCar paddock. Her company donates all of her time and expertise to make this event what it is, and she's awesome. So Cooper is the theme, Cooper Tires and Laura Cooper. And I just show up and do what they tell me to do.
No, you don't. I heard a couple of people tell you to do something, and you said, I can't do that. That's nasty.
I only listen to Laura.
Good idea.
Because you tell me to do things like, well, I can't say that on the air. Yeah.
Oh,
so I will say this. The most important thing about the Dave Dusick Foundation and our events is everybody's asking for money right now. There's so many causes that are valuable causes. There's so many people in need in today's society, and Raleigh Hospital just happens to be the one that's near and dear to my heart. And so my mission is not to ask anybody for money, but to do something really, really, really freaking cool, to throw the best party in the world. And oh, by the way, it also benefits families that have a child with a life-threatening or altering illness. So that's the goal. Come hang out and let's have a great time.
No, yes.
I like you clappers. Thanks. You're good for my self-esteem.
You might mention,
The peanut gallery is rich tonight.
Fluffy is always chattering. She's laying on the table. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
For Thursday all day. Talk to Fluffy, and we'll work it out.
Oh, the Dave Dusick limo, thanks to the Grant King Shops. Billy Throckmorton, you're a great man. I love you, buddy. I love you.
Oh, you love her. She's better looking than he is.
Yeah, but he needs the pat on the back. She knows she's awesome. He's still got self-esteem issues.
Yeah, I know.
You know, the last time I remember Billy Throckmorton in a race car, this beautiful red 22 midget with hand-painted numbers. Of course, it was 1982, so everything was hand-painted back then. Upside down at Raceway Park on national television. That's my vision of Billy Throckmorton.
Yeah,
is upside down. I love you, buddy.
And the thing he's upset about is he didn't put, if you see this, the car's for sale. He didn't do
Exactly.
that. You might mention that in addition to getting to talk to you, shake your hand, and listen to the music, there is a silent auction.
Yeah, good call.
Numerous items, and of course, if you got them, they ain't cheap stuff. It's good stuff.
We do have a fantastic silent auction group, and the truth is, my networks now have become professionals, and so we've got just as many corporate VIP tables as we do general admission. Actually, I would be remiss. I don't even know them all. You probably know them, Sydney. All of our sponsors who have donated corporate tables and our support. But the SCCA Pro is one of the new ones that's on this year. But to my point, we have some really cool auction items that go for relatively inexpensive because we don't have a lot of race fans. We don't have a lot of people who appreciate some of the things that we have. And so if you're a race fan out there, come hang out. Every year more and more race car drivers come, and it's a total chill evening. Like I said, Jay and Doug will be there, and you can hang out with those guys. But we have some really cool auction items. Last year we gave away an all-access pass to the Coca-Cola 600 or the World 600 or whatever it's called. Good, I can see that. That's somebody upside down. Is that Billy? No comment. Maybe we should auction that picture off signed. But anyway, we've got some really cool things. We gave away an all-access pass to the Coca-Cola 600 last year at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Doug gave away an all-access pass where Doug was going to do a private tour of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He gave that away. And we've got some really, really cool things. Oh, you know what also?
Oh.
We're going to do a celebrity date auction. And right now, they can't find anybody better than me to auction off for a date. So if you want to go to Harry and Izzy's and actually have me buy you dinner, all you have to do is bid on a date with me.
I got a better idea. I'll take you to dinner. We'll go to White Castle.
Don, I'm still single, and I'm smart enough to know you don't go to White Castle on dates.
Oh, yeah? What's the admission?
Oh, yeah. Details are important.
Well,
This is why I'm just the pretty face. Laura Cooper, unfortunately, couldn't make it. She's the rock star of this deal. So tickets are $35 in advance. You can go to iknowdavedusick.com, and there'll be details on the main page. Tickets are $35 in advance. That gets you in. There'll be it's we call it like an appetizer board, like hors d'oeuvres, but it's enough. I mean,
it's big.
Yeah.
I was there last year. It's big.
Yeah, it's great food. So that's you get that with that, and then obviously you get to listen to the band. It's $50 at the day of show at the door because it's logistically a nightmare if you show up and don't have a ticket. So and basically what we do is we want to discount and get as many people as we can there. So buy your tickets in advance. I know DaveDusick.com, $50, or VIP tickets are $100. They have access to the exclusive VIP area. Alexander Rossi was there last year, which I thought was really cool of him.
Yes, he was.
Kyle not
Kaiser?
Kirkwood, Kyle Kaiser, thank you.
Yeah.
Kyle Kaiser showed up with a race-worn fire suit day of, and we auctioned that off. Johnny Unser was always there. My buddy Johnny's a great dude. So VIP tickets are $100. They include access to the VIP area and 2 free drink tickets. And then, of course, if you're a corporation, I believe tables of 10 start at $1,500. And it's such a cool night. It
It
really
really
is.
is.
Yeah.
I can say that because I've been there, and it is interesting, the myriad of people from all aspects. And I'm hoping that more fans will show up, because that's, the stuff you auction off, race people say, well, I've got one of those, but I'll buy one. And race fans go, ooh.
Exactly. And to be honest, the number of drivers that show up that I don't even realize, because what ends up happening is you have your core group that comes at 7. It runs from 7 till midnight, right? So a lot of people come over, the business people, but the band plays till midnight. And so a lot of times the racers will come over, like all my friends will be there, and they'll call their racer friends, and they come over after dinner by like 8:30 or 9, and our party is the nightcap. And so a lot of well-known dirt late model guys showed up last year, and it's just it's really becoming our goal is to make it the best party of PRI weekend, and it's slowly but surely getting there. And by the way, it all proceeds to Riley Children's Foundation. It's
Every
just
dime.
you cannot beat it.
Every dime.
You can't beat it. Yeah. Thanks to our corporate partners. So yeah.
As I said, I've known you for 20, 25. I think I known you since you started at the Speedway as an intern. Get out of the way. I'm trying to get in here. And
Who's that funny-looking kid? Yeah.
And you'd say, don't talk to me like that.
I was an arrogant little son of a gun back then.
But, what you do and what you've done, and the loyalty that you have, and the opportunities that you are giving those who want to get into the business here and learn it from the ground up. You'll teach them. They'll go out. They'll work for you. It's a great thing. You're an interesting man. I'm disappointed I wasn't invited to go to Panama, but I know you're single and you had ladies you wanted to see. I understand that.
For the record, there was no ladies present in Panama that I brought. Next.
Where did you go from there?
Actually, I was in Belize first, and then I went to Panama, and then Las Vegas for the. Actually, I just got back from the SCUSA Supernats. It's the biggest karting race in the world, and I have to give a shout out to those guys. It was an honor to be part of that team and to check that off my bucket list. And such a cool event. 531 drivers on site. And we raced from 8 a.m. until about 8 p.m. every night for 5 nights in a row. It was absolutely awesome. Some of the best racing you've ever seen in your life. Yeah. Apparently I penalized Rubens Barrichello and didn't know it.
Was he there?
Yeah. I personally, when I'm a steward especially, just car numbers. I never want to know who's in the car. It's just because it's unbiased. It's a car number. Car 572 hit car 566. And then later I found out that 572 was Rubens. So, yeah.
Did you talk him into coming back to the
I think I penalized Connor Daly too. Hey Connor, if you're watching this, sorry, bro. It was cool. It was really cool. I've done a lot of really cool things in my life, and it was one of the coolest.
But it's not as cool as being here.
That's what I started off with how cool it was to be here. See, the peanut gallery's listening.
She's been laying on the table half the night. But again, he's offered. They have offered the Grant King
That's
limousine
awesome.
has offered a full day with the car. People want to do whatever it is.
Well, let's do it this way. Let's turn that into a silent auction item, so that let's make that a silent. Okay, we'll do it. So the current Grant King shops. I'm telling you, man. This right here is the story of my life. The number of people that step up to support what we do is just remarkable, and I am just grateful to get to be the guy to organize it. Thank you.
But the best part of it is your mother and your father and you fought and you made it. So here you are.
I didn't know you were going to make me cry tonight.
What? Listen, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed knowing you. Again, we don't talk. I don't see it all. Even if you're at the racetrack, you're over doing something, and I wander around just looking. But I've been honored to know you.
I'm going to interrupt because I'm good at that. Have you ever come into race control and seen what we do in race control?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been up there a number of times. In fact, if I remember, and you're probably responsible now that I mentioned that, there was a race.
Thanks, buddy.
There was a race, and I forget where it was. That when Graham Rahal pulled out of the pit, the hose came
Oh, really, dude?
loose, and
Really?
and they didn't see it.
Oh, come on, man.
They didn't see it. And Brian said, we didn't realize it until the camera picked it up in the back. We didn't see it. But you've solved that. You've got cameras now and television so they can see everything in race control. They can't miss
I've
anything.
done 5 years times 18-ish races a year. Somebody do some quick 58, 90. I've done almost 100 IndyCar races, and there's one where we made a mistake, and you got to bring that one up?
Well, according to what the story was, the cameras weren't where they could see it in race control.
We
And
got
you
better.
went- and
It was
you
an
went from-
opportunity for improvement, and we improved.
And
yes.
you went from like 10 televisions to 30 now.
Yeah. So real quick, this is really cool, and you said there's no time limit, so I'm just going to go. This is pretty cool. If you've never had a chance to see race control, what you could do is you could go to Racers Know Dave Dusick on December 6th. You could bid on the silent auction item, and I could give you a private tour of IndyCar race control, and you would see not only a giant video wall with video on it, but we have 42. 6 times 8 is 48. 46. We have 46 video feeds that come into our replay machine. My guy, Racetrack Zach, who's still not here and is probably fired tomorrow. Oh, you're here. Hey, buddy. Just kidding. Just kidding. My bad.
Hey, you better be careful. He's bigger than you are.
Yes, he is. I actually have an I Know RTZ shirt because that guy's so awesome. We have 46 video feeds that come into our system, and Zach and I, there are 2 of us who literally review video nonstop during the race. On average, Zach, wouldn't you say that between the 2 of us, we have anywhere between 80 and 100 clips per just race day?
Sometimes that's a little low.
Yeah, copy. It depends on who's on the racetrack. We'll leave that alone too. But no, the IndyCar, the IndyCar series has done a really good job of upping their technology, and it's really remarkable what we have and what we do every week. So it's cool.
And the thing that I noticed, picked up on, is a lot of people did, and nothing against Brian Barnhart at all whatsoever, but they have quit the mamby-pamby, because I think Tracy and Townsend Bell have said, what the hell are they penalizing him for that? And they didn't call near the penalties they used to. There used to be drive-throughs. You said, geez, that's racing. Of course, when you talk to Tracy, everything he did was a racing incident because he ran into people and ran under them and over them. And
So
It's a hell of a
20 years
race.
ago, you'd have just lit me on fire, and I'd have just. But I'm getting older and just a little bit wiser, and I'm just not going to comment on that. But I will say this, that Brian Barnhart, you said this. I have had the pleasure to be in race control for every major motorsport event in this country, from Formula One to the Daytona 500 to the Knoxville Nationals to USAC races. And I've worked with every race director in the world, major race director in the world. And Brian Barnhart is hands down the most situationally aware person you have ever met in your entire life. On lap 98 of the 2016 100th Running Indy 500, he knew exactly where we were and how that race was going to play out, in his ability to understand and comprehend. And I think the reason he got so much slack is because he made decisions that were so far advanced that you just couldn't understand why he did what he did, because he could see things you can't see. He could see things at lap 50 that are going to happen on lap 150. And he was hands down by far, and I have a great relationship with Brian, but hands down there will never ever be, and Kyle Novak is an amazing young man who's doing a great job, but Brian Barnhart will never be replaced. That guy was truly remarkable. You could clap for Brian if you want. I mean, he got so much hell, like somebody give him some love, you know? So
I've been a Brian Barnhart fan
Yeah.
since he was ran the track, was the head of the track.
That's when I met him. He was the second person I ever met in 1996. Yeah, that guy cares more about the Indianapolis 500 than just the family, you know, the dedication to the family, Brian's extended family.
Unbelievable. Well,
Yeah.
listen, again, December the 6th at the Speedway in the Media Center on the 4th floor. Tickets at davedusick.com.
I know DaveDusick.com. Although if you go to DaveDusick.com, you can get there too. If you go to DaveDusick.com, you can learn more about my cricket. Well, you can learn more about all sorts of things. No.
I'm going to leave that one alone, too.
Yep.
Okay. But it's worthwhile to go. If you haven't been there, it's worth it. It's a great time, and it's a great organization, and this guy is behind it. and it's because of him and the fight that he put up with. He's here. We're here. We can enjoy it. I want to say thanks, Dave, for being here. Dave Dusick.
Thanks for making me cry, buddy. It's always a pleasure.
That's right, 4 to 8. Next week, we will plan to be here. I have some ideas on some guests, and again, if you want to know who the guests are, go to autosportradio.com, and they will be listed. You'll see Autosport show up, a tab on the top, click on, and the guests will be there when I get them arranged. Also, next week, I'm going to have, thanks to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, 2 tickets. If you have grandkids or young kids that have never seen Lights at the Brickyard, I'll have 2 passes for that. Next week, we'll draw, not you. Your grandkids are 60, for Pete's sake. But if you have young kids or grandkids, I'll have 2 pair we'll draw for. I meant to pick them up today, and I completely forgot it. So,
Yeah, you should. Exactly. I mean, you're making fun of him, but yet you forgot something today?
I forget something every day. Are you kidding?
Just saying. The kids say that now. Hashtag, just saying.
Yeah, I know. My honey reminds me every once in a while, you almost forgot to get up. Yeah, I did, actually. Anyway, thanks for everybody for being here. I want to thank Mr. Snyder for being here. I appreciate it. A member of the board of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to come and visit. And Dave, I can't say any more. You made the time. You got here. I appreciate it. We'll look for you. December the 6th, be there. You'll enjoy it. Till next week, Don Kay saying good night. See you then.